You ever wake up one Monday morning, expecting the world to be the same old, only to find out the ground's shifted beneath your feet? That's how it started for me, standing at the edge of my orchard, watching a strange dark patch of grass near the northern rows where my pear trees have stood like family for decades. And for a split second, I thought, maybe it's just leftover rain from last night's storm. But the way that water sat, creeping, seeping, pooling like it was hunting for trouble, it just wasn't right. I squatted down, dug my fingers into the soggy earth, and every instinct I had from 40 years working water and soil, army hydrologist, flood controls, storm drainage, told me this wasn't just a heavy dew. Something was off. Real off. The orchard, you see, it's not just land. It's 3 generations of stubborn love and weathered hands, handed down to me along with my dad's old journals and his favorite line. The land takes care of you if you respect it. I knew every contour, every trick of the water table, and I sure as hell knew when someone was messing with it. So I glanced past the fence, up toward that new marble palace on the ridge, Karen's mansion, gleaming like a gold tooth in a mouth full of cracked molars. Her house had gone up overnight. No questions asked. The HOA bending so far backward to please her, I'm surprised they didn't break. Karen didn't just run the HOA. She was the HOA, loud, perfect, terrifying, with that voice like a saw blade and the smile of someone who always gets her way. I followed the water's trail, all the way to where the old washback used to run, back before the neighborhood paved over history. And there it was, a raw, ugly trench, carved right through Karen's lawn, cutting a path straight to my trees. PVC pipe, muddy boot prints, the whole thing fresh as a slap in the face. That runoff wasn't an accident. It was engineered, on purpose, to shove every drop from her fancy fountains and endless patio right into my land. That's not just rude, it's illegal. I started taking pictures, documenting everything. Angles, timestamps, the whole 9 yards. Army training doesn't leave you. I felt the same chill I used to get walking into a bad situation overseas, except now it was here, in my home. The sky darkened. Another storm on the way. I laid out sandbags, wood planks, anything to slow the coming flood. I didn't sleep that night, just sat at my kitchen table, thumbing through my dad's journals, listening to thunder roll, and picturing my trees gasping for air under water. At dawn, I decided I'd go to Karen, be civil, give her a chance to fix it. Not because I had to, because I still wanted to believe people could be decent. When she opened the door, dripping perfume and condescension in a silk robe, she called me orchard man and laughed off my concerns. Maybe you should improve your drainage, she said, all while standing on a patio bigger than my barn. I told her, plain as day, she needed to fill the trench and stop the damage. She shot back with threats. My fence was too tall, my irrigation not approved, the board watching my every move. Her words were all honey and poison. I realized then, she didn't care about right or wrong. She just cared about winning. That night, the storm hit like a war. I waded into 3 inches of water before the second row of trees. Mud, debris, even flagstones from her yard tumbled down onto my land. Saplings sagged, pears burst open, my fence disappeared. I fought all night, but there was no stopping it. Come sunrise, my home looked like a battlefield, roots exposed, pipes mangled, fruit ruined. It reminded me of villages in Kandahar after a flood. Back then, we rebuilt in 48 hours. But here, it was personal. I spent the morning documenting everything. Photos, sketches, even floodplain overlays from the HOA's own development maps. Karen had skipped every rule, every safeguard. This wasn't just a nuisance. It was criminal. I called county code enforcement, spoke to a woman who sounded chipper until I explained. She promised an inspection by week's end. Progress, finally. But I knew Karen wouldn't take it lying down. Sure enough, by noon she was on my porch, this time in a tracksuit, clipboard in hand. Sunglasses big as shields. Did you report me? She demanded. I said yes. She sneered. I'm on the HOA board. We handle things internally. I told her this was bigger than HOA rules. This is environmental law, Karen. Her eyes went flat, cold. You think anyone's going to side with you? Look at your mess. I held my ground. I've got the law. I've got the truth. She stormed off, nearly slipping in my mud. The clouds above us looked ready to split open again. Over the next days, I rebuilt what I could. Sandbags, tarps, makeshift trenches, shoulders aching like the old days in Afghanistan. Then, a gold-sealed HOA letter showed up. 3 violations, including my sandbags, my tarp, and the visual blight of my orchard. It was pure retaliation, Karen weaponizing the rulebook. So, I did what any soldier would. I fired back in writing, CC'd everyone from the county to a civil rights attorney friend. I made it clear, if they kept harassing me for defending my land, I'd come after them for abuse of power. That week, my old Army buddy Ben rolled up with a drone and topo scanner. Within hours, we had proof the trench violated every stormwater law in the book. I gathered city records. Karen had never filed permits. Her emergency reimbursement from HOA funds was flat-out embezzlement. Somebody inside the board leaked more expense ledgers, campaign donors, all her contractors, photos of her with shovels 2 days before the trench appeared. The story was clear. This wasn't bad luck. It was a cover-up. Neighbors started dropping by, some to nod, some to quietly say, "We're with you." Isla, the youngest board member, seconded my nomination for an open seat. Minutes from board meetings, highlighted with all Karens. Manipulations landed in my hands. The tide was shifting. People were tired of being scared. They wanted change. The county scheduled a public hearing. I showed up with 3 binders: environmental violations, financial misconduct, board manipulation. The room was full. Karen sat opposite, lawyers flanking her, pale and stony. When I told my story, showed my evidence, the photos, the ledger, the emails, the silence was so deep you could hear the weight of it. The county chair turned to Karen, asked her to respond. She tried to deflect, blamed clerical errors, claimed it was all for the community. But the evidence was overwhelming. The board voted, cease and desist, pending audit, possible charges. Days later, a line of county vehicles rolled through Willow Creek, taping her mansion. With red notices, cutting power and water. Karen screamed from her balcony, called her lawyers. No one came. For the first time, she wasn't in control. Neighbors helped restore my orchard. Ben and I installed real drainage, guided the wash back to its channel. The old power structure fell. My name went on the ballot. The old board swept out. At my first meeting, I spoke not of revenge, but of roots. How real communities grow strong when you remember where you come from. The orchard's scars remain, but new shoots push through. Neighbors plant, share, heal. The mansion sits empty, overgrown. Karen's reign is a cautionary tale now, a reminder of what happens when power forgets its place. The new board rewrote the rules: transparency, fairness, restoration funds for those Karen hurt. We threw a harvest party under the trees, laughter and pie in the air, and for the first time in a long while, I felt the world was right again. I sit here now, under the pear tree my grandfather planted, thinking of storms, bullets, bylaws, bad neighbors. I think about the roots that hold me, the land that remembers. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just stands tall, unmovable, like a tree after the flood. That's enough for me. And maybe it's enough for you too. So tell me, where do you draw the line? When is standing your ground just stubbornness? And when is it the only thing that keeps your world whole? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's see where you'd stand if the flood came for you.